In this video, I will show you how to turn this spreadsheet of data into this amazing looking Power BI dashboard in just 20 minutes. No coding is needed, so it's absolutely beginner friendly. So let's jump straight into it. So the first thing you'll need for our tutorial today is the Power BI software downloaded to your computer. I'm gonna leave this link in the description, so feel free to go there and download the software if you haven't. The second thing that you will need is the data that we will be analyzing. So go to Kaggle, I will also leave this link in the description, and click this downloads button right here. Once you've got the data and the Power BI installed to your computer, we can start playing with this. So now I'm going to open Power BI, and this should give me the default home screen. You see, the welcome screen of Power BI shows us the reports that we've created in the past. Also, just is sharing some information about the product. So I'm going to close that, and I will use the Get Data menu right here to extract the data. So click on this icon on your computer. And now you will see the full list of data sources that Power BI can work with. You can scroll down and browse through this if you're interested, but for our tutorial, we will just need the text CSV data source. So I'm going to select text CSV and click connect. And now we'll need to select the CSV that we'll be working with. So I'm going to do that. You see, Power BI already allows us to load the data. But before loading, I just want to transform it a little bit and also show you the functionality of Power BI. So we're gonna go to transform data, and now you will find yourself in Power Query, which is the data transformation interface. You transform the data here before loading it to your dashboard. I'll just show you the overall interface. So at the top, you've got several ribbons grouping the functionality of Power Query together. We're going to be using some of them. On the left, you've got the list of tables that you've downloaded to your file. At the center, obviously, you've got the data screen, which you can just browse like this. On the right, you have the list of applied steps. So you see Power BI applies data transformation steps on our clicks, and those steps would be repeated every time that you refresh the data in your file. I am going to do some editing on this data, so just follow with me. Now I'm going to scroll to the right and just check whether the data types have been applied correctly. And I can see here that the date field is still text, but I need it to be date. So I'm going to click this ABC icon, and this will give me all the data types that I can assign. And I'm just going to select date. Don't worry about this one, just click add new step. And you see, it gives us some errors. The reason for it, and I'm just going to delete the last step, is because the date format is the US date, and my computer is set up to UK date as a default. So I'm just going to click the ABC icon again, and I'm going to choose using OK. Here, I can assign the data type to the column, so I'm going to change it from text to date, and I will also tell Power BI that this is not the UK date format, but the US date format. And I'm going to click OK. Now everything is good. I'm also interested to understand the hour. So I'm going to actually add a custom column to extract these two first symbols from the time column. So we're gonna go to the add column ribbon. We'll do extract. We'll extract the first two characters and click OK. Now I will rename this column. I will double click on here and I will say hour. Perfect. And I'm also going to change this to be whole number. Okay, almost done. So I'm just going to scroll to the left to make sure that the data types are all correct. Actually, something I've noticed is the rating column. I actually want it to be whole number instead of a number and decimal. So I'm gonna change this to whole number just by clicking on it, selecting whole number. Now our data is ready to work with, so we're going to go to the home ribbon and we will click close and apply. Now that we've clicked close and apply, you will see that the data is loading to your file. Once the data is loaded, we can see that there is a new interface. There is now a report view where we can build our reports. There is a data view where we can see our data and just filter. So I'm going to go back to the report view and just show you around some of the functionality. So on the right, you will see the visualization tab, which allows you to select the data visualization type for your data. And on the right, you have your actual data. So if you expand this table by clicking on this arrow, you will see every column that we've got. Just before I start building the report, I want to make it look nice, so I'm going to do a little bit of design work on it. So I will switch from this visual tab to the format tab. And I will go to wallpaper. I will select an image, and here I'm going to select this one. I will also leave the link to this one in the description so you can download this image later. Now, the next thing we're going to do is to build our first visual. So if you go to the data tab and you see you can put a check mark next to every field. So I'm going to put my check mark here, and I will also put the check mark here. So now we've got the sum of total by date. The total in this context is revenue. In fact, you can double click on total and change the name to revenue like this. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna go back to the visual because I don't like it being a table. I want to visualize the data. So I'm going to select the line chart. So now I've clicked the line chart and it has created my first line chart. I don't like the colors of it, so I'm going to change the data scheme that we're using, the color scheme that we're using. So go to the view ribbon, and here you will see all the themes that are available to us. So let's open this up, and the one that I want to use is this one, City Park. So I'm just going to click on this, and now it's looking a lot better. So the next thing I want to do is I want to understand whether, my numbers are trending up or down overall. So I'm gonna make sure that my visual is selected by clicking on it. I will go to the Add Further Analysis tab, and I'm gonna add the trend line. So now you can see that the numbers are slightly going down, but mostly they're stable. So it's already giving us a bit more context to our data. I will also go to the Format tab here, and I'm going to switch from Visual to General. I will go to Effects, and here I'm going to turn the shadow on. I really like how this looks already, so let's continue building. The next thing I'm interested in is to see what is my distribution of revenue by hour of the day. So I'm going to pull the hour on the canvas, and you see, because it's a numbers field, Power BI thinks that it needs to sum it up, but I'm actually going to change it to the table. So in the data visualization here, we change it to the table. I'm going to go to this columns tab and change it from sum to don't summarize. So now we've got our distribution by hour. And I want to see my revenue by hour. So now it's a lot better, but I want to visualize it again. So I'm going to select the clustered column chart. And now I can see my distribution. I can see that there is a small spike here, but other than that, there is a dip for this 3 hours. To visualize it a bit better, I'm just going to go to the Add Further Analysis tab and go to the average line, and I'm going to add the average line. Now I can see which hours are below average or above average for my visual. I'm just going to format this visual the same way as I did the other ones. So I'm going to go to the Format tab, I'm going to go to General, Effects, and I will turn the shadow on. And I will also drag it a little bit forward, like this. So this is good. The next thing I'm interested in is to see which product lines generate more revenue for me, but also which ones are more profitable. So I'm going to put a check mark next to product line, and here I will select revenue. I will also select quantity, and I will select gross income. So now I just need to do a little bit of editing to this table to make it blend in a bit nicer. So we are going to go to the Format tab, and we go to Style, and we're going to change the style to None. Now it blends in a bit better. I also don't like that the decimals are showing, so I'm going to do some formatting here. And in the Format tab, I can select a specific column. So I'm going to select my sum of revenue, and I'm going to send it to 0. I'm going to do the same thing with gross income. So here I'll set it to 0 as well. And the way I format all of my tables is by adding a little bit more color to them. It just makes it easier to interpret, at least in my opinion. So we're going to switch from Format to the Visual side tab. And here we will see the list of all the columns. So I'm going to add the color to this sum of revenue by clicking here on this downward arrow, and I will go to conditional formatting, and I will select the background color. I want the lowest value to be very light green, and I want the highest value to be, darker green. So I'm going to click OK. Perfect. I'm gonna add the colors to the other columns the same way. So we select quantity, we go to conditional formatting, select background color, and I'm gonna set this to yellow. Great. And I'm gonna do the same thing for gross income. We'll click this downward arrow, we'll go to conditional formatting, I will select the background color, and I will use blue this time, and click OK. Now my tables are looking a lot better. So let's keep building more visuals, shall we? Actually, just before we continue, I'm going to go to the Format tab, click General, Effects, and add a shadow to it. Now it's looking the same way as all the other visuals, which is what I want. I also noticed that our dataset gives us rating for every transaction that people do. So I want to see, what rating people give to most of the transactions. So I'm going to select the rating here, but just before I do it, I actually want to show you a different way of creating Power BI visuals. So you can click on the visual first and then put a check mark. So we're gonna go to rating, and you see that it sums it by default. We're going to click this downward arrow and tell Power BI that we don't need to summarize it. So now we want to see how many transactions are falling to each category. So we are going to go to invoice ID, and we're going to put a check mark next to it. So here it's just giving me all kinds of invoices that are available, but I actually want to summarize them. So I want to go to this downward arrow, and I want to select count distinct. Now we have the count of invoices by rating. In order for me to see it better, I just need to turn this to a bar chart, and now we have our bar chart. So it's a little bit more clear which invoices are, which rating we usually receive. So the last thing that I'm going to do is to analyze the payment method. So let's go to the payment, and we'll click on this column, we'll drag it on the canvas. We're going to click the revenue again, and the visual type is going to be clustered bar chart. So this is now perfectly how I want it, and I'm just gonna go to the Format tab, General, Effects, and turn the shadow on. I will also go back to the Visual tab. I will turn the data labels on, just so that I see the numbers here. Finally, I'll turn the shadow on for this visual as well, so I'm going to select it with the left click. I will go to General, Effects, and I'm going to turn the shadow on. Now I will adjust the visuals a little bit more, like this. So now all of them are aligned. The last thing I want to do is to pull the city on the canvas. So I will click on the city, pull it on the canvas, and I'm going to change this to slicer. Now I will edit my slicer by going to Format, by clicking Slicer Settings, and setting it to drop down. I will make my slicer a little bit smaller, and now I can also start filtering by city. So I can see that Mandalay, for example, I have a big drop at 16, which was not visible before. I can see that the second city, which I cannot pronounce, is looking the same way as all the data combined. Now I'll select the final city, and yeah, I can see that, for example, 19 is no longer the top category here, and most sales happen in the morning and in the afternoon, which is also interesting. So there you have it. This is your express introduction into Power BI. So follow me to learn how to create more of these dashboards.